Welcome to Between the Shelves, the premier Save a Library podcast. I am your host, Alex, and this week I am joined by Tory.
Hello.
Head of Patron and Technical Services?
Just Patron Services.
Just Patron Services?
Which includes technical services.
If you're in charge of patrons and tech, it sounds like you're like designing synthetic humans or something.
We're making the Terminator.
I just watched the Alien Earth premiere last night, so I have synthetic androids on the brain. This is a perfect example of things I will cut from the episode.
No, you won't.
Yeah, right. I love Alien. We should just do an Alien episode right now. And I'm also joined for the first time from Technical Services and Patron Services, but mostly just Patron Services or mostly Technical Services.
So the whole thing is Patron Services, which is comprised of circulation and technical services. And together, we serve the patrons.
Good. See, this is all stuff you're going to learn about today in today's episode. And we'll introduce you in a second.
I'm waiting.
Barbara, welcome to the podcast.
Good morning, everyone.
Barbara, the queen of technical services.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
So, what are we talking about in today's episode? We are talking about the life cycle of a library book, from ordering to weeding, and we'll describe what that means.
From soup to nuts.
From soup to nuts. I think this is going to be an interesting episode, and I hope our patrons will learn a little bit about how we order and everything that goes into how we develop our collection and
get these books out to you.
Get these books out of here.
I think we should give a disclaimer at the top of the episode. This is how we do it. Every library does things slightly differently. There's things that we share, but different parts of the process, who's in charge of what, can differ a lot from library to library.
Yeah, that's true. And another disclaimer, I work in adult services, and we don't have anyone here from the teen department or children's department, so they might order their books using slightly different criteria, but so we're going to be mostly focused on adult services.
It's a very general.
Yeah. Try to be as broad as we can. Did we get... Oh, we didn't do our most important housekeeping.
Oh, we got the most important part of the episode. They got to smash that like button. They got to smash that subscribe button.
5 stars only.
5 stars only. Review, rate. Share.
Spread the word.
You got to do it.
Between the Shelves.
Number 1 podcast of 2025 by the end of the year.
We're getting there. We're growing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think
50,000 strong and growing. They were talking about podcasts.
All right. I think we've gotten all the housekeeping out of the way. Should we get into it? The topic at hand? Okay. So I think there's no better place to start than with ordering books. So the responsibility of ordering is shared amongst all of the librarians. In adult services, we split up the collection by individuals, by librarians.
And by subject.
Thank you. So fiction, biographies, those are broad enough where everyone can order those collections. But nonfiction is split up between librarians. So, like, for instance, I will order the 0s through 200, which comprise computers, psychology, philosophy, kind of like general information stuff. Witchcraft is in there too.
His favorite section.
Like the paranormal. So like all of that. And I also ordered the 300, which is a huge section that covers politics, economics, any like social sciences. It's a very, very large section.
So large that it frequently has overlap with my section.
Yes.
Which is the 900s.
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap.
A lot of overlap. Sometimes I will get confused when the books come in. Spoiler for the next part of the process. But my book section is mostly the history books and the travel books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like how we do things on the adult services floor. I'm sure children's, because it's probably a huge amount of fiction that they're ordering. And maybe they break it up by like age. I'm not really sure. Like, picture books versus early readers and things like that. But that's how we do things in adult. So how do we decide what to order? That's a little more complicated.
It probably changes from person to person.
Well, we all use the same resources, I think,
sure.
But we kind of maybe weigh them a little bit differently. So the primary source we use to find out what we're going to order is through journals, publisher journals. So, for instance, Publishers Weekly, Library Journal, Kirkus Reviews. These are they monthly or bi-monthly?
Publishers Weekly is weekly.
Well, that makes sense. Oh boy. Edit.
But they come out regularly.
They come out very regularly, yeah, where there's usually seems like there's one on my desk to read every day.
Sometimes multiple of the same one at once.
So these journals, if you're not familiar with them, and most of you probably aren't because you have to be professional probably to receive them, or you'd have to subscribe.
You can subscribe.
To them.
It's just a magazine. I don't know why you would.
Yeah, exactly. So they're basically just thick journals that are comprised of reviews. Basically, they have articles in there too, or interviews with authors, but mostly, I mean, I don't read a lot of those interviews. I just skip right to the review section, and they're interviews of books from the main publishers, like the 5 main mega corporation publishers out there, and they'll give very brief synopses of the books. If it's a book that they think is going to be in high demand, they'll explain that. If they think it's like a book of critical acclaim, they'll have a little star next to it. So those are ones you probably want to pay a little bit more attention to.
They also will very artfully note if they think that you should not purchase the book. They won't outright say it, but they will creatively use language to suggest that the book is not very good.
Yes, which is very helpful, and it is very creative. They're never like, this book stinks, but they're artful in their reviews. Especially
Kirkus, they're very good at throwing a last sentence on that is a strong hint.
Yeah. So the journals, that's the bulk of I would say of where we get our recommendations from, but we also take requests from patrons. So if somebody comes in and we don't have a book they're looking for and they'll ask for it, we'll consider that heavily. High demand holds. Tori, maybe you can, I think you run our holds list, right? Or you used to?
I used to. So we frequently go through the holds list because journals are really highlighting only a very few of the books released, because there are so many books that come out every week, like you can't write about them all. So patrons will place holds. We have to review to see if there's any that we missed that we probably would want to add to the collection that would be hard to get from somewhere else. And high demand holds are when people there's a variety of patrons who have one item on hold. So for like a Frida McFadden, who's a recent very popular author, sometimes across the county there will be several hundred holds. But if there's many of them from our library, we need to buy additional copies. And that's something we have to consider when doing collection development. Like, are we going to have to get multiples of this? Usually to start, we'll get one, but we have a ratio, helpful ratio we use to decide if we should get more. So for every 5 holds, we'll get an additional copy, which does not mean get 5 of your friends to put the book on hold if you want it sooner. But if a book is very popular, we will get more than if it's not.
Although, that being said, we don't have a way to check that, so you just might have planted an idea in our patrons' heads. But hey, that's the advantage of being a Between the Shelves listener. You get these little
tips,
life hacks. These little life hacks.
Hey, and if those 5 friends are going to check the book out,
all the better.
More power to them.
We check statistics as well, basically, is what it boils down to, so we can see what people want, and then we order based on that. So if you're ever wondering like why there's a long wait to get the new Nelson DeMille book.
Well, no more new ones of him.
True. Stephen King. We try to order based on the anticipation on the holds. So this is like why it's so important to place holds on things, because then that indicates to us
interest in that author.
What is yes, exactly. And then we'll know what to order. So if people are just coming, seeing that a book's checked out and then not saying, well, I'll check back again later. No, put a hold on it so we know there's a demand for the book, and then we can order more copies.
So another thing that we use as well, standing orders.
Yes.
Which also comes into play for these very popular authors. Sometimes it is labor intensive to have to order things that people will want. So the vendors that we buy from have something called standing orders, where you can tell them in advance, please send us these. We always will want James Patterson. Don't make us buy James Patterson, just send it to us. So for popular authors like a James Patterson, Danielle Steele, stuff like that, we have standing orders. Or for books that update regularly, like a travel book, coin collecting information, stamps. So stuff that updates yearly or bi-yearly or things like that, we will get. We don't have to actually order those ourselves or think about it.
That's very helpful, because the Kirkus review is not reviewing the latest Rick Steves Poland, travel guide or something. That's just, and that would be something we would have to go out of our way to look for every year, remember to check for. So the standing orders are helpful for those, things that get updated yearly. I just wanted to touch on briefly before we move on. Sorry, Barbara, you're going to be highly featured in the next portion of this podcast.
Okay.
But I just wanted to touch on, because we do get a lot of requests or patrons asking about self-published books or books that are published by indie presses or small press publishers. So if somebody comes in and is specifically asking for a book, I mean, we're obviously going to consider ordering that book. But what we have to weigh that against is it too niche for the community? Because as much as we want to be encompassing of everyone's interests in the community, we do have a limited budget, and that budget is given to us by the public. So it is part of our duty as librarians to be good stewards of public funds. So if you come in and you're asking for, I'll use an example, a real life example. Somebody comes in and is requesting extremely esoteric literary criticism of Shakespeare plays. So these books are rare, they're expensive, they're basically textbooks.
Which is a thing we do not buy, textbooks.
Yes, we do not buy textbooks. Thank you for mentioning that. So if it's a book like that, we will probably not order it because we know it's such a niche subject matter that it would only get checked out by this one person and then sit on a shelf for 5 years or so, and then we'd have to throw it out. And that, in my eyes, is not a good, responsible stewards of public funds. So that's one example. And then, another popular example is like, I don't know, somebody you see in like an ad on like an Amazon thing or something, and it's a self-published book. That's another one that, unless it's like a TikTok author who's really popular right now and we know is going to get checked out a bunch, that's something we definitely would have to weigh what we think the needs are of the community versus the needs of the individual. So I just wanted to touch on that.
Although on the flip side, I would also like to say, don't feel discouraged about suggesting or requesting something if it is something like that, because, to give another specific example, over the summer, we've had one very popular new author added to our collection based on a request for a self-published author from Amazon that we decided to take a chance off. The author is Judith Keim, Keim, and she writes a lot of series about like women at a hotel discovering their independence. And she releases them in large print. So a patron had requested that, and we got one of the series, and they went over like gangbusters, and many people were checking them out, which led to us buying the rest of her books. So always ask. Don't be afraid of us saying no, but it doesn't hurt to ask, because we will consider, and sometimes it's a good suggestion that we just missed.
Right. We're experts in certain things, but we don't read every book that comes out, and just speaking for myself, I don't know, without the help of these journals and the New York Times bestseller list, what the popular opinion is on new authors, especially upcoming authors. So thank you for mentioning that. Did we cover everything for ordering? I guess we could talk about where we order from quickly. So a bulk of our ordering is through our major book vendor, Baker and Taylor. I don't know, is their full title Baker and Taylor Title Source 360, or is that just like the ordering the program? Yeah. Baker and Taylor is where we buy a vast majority of the books, and then occasionally we will order from Amazon if it's not available anywhere else.
There's Baker and Taylor is one of several very popular library book vendors, and there are other ones, one that we use called Ingram, and then another one that we don't use yet called Brodart, but a lot of libraries use a combination of these three to see who can get them their items the fastest, process them the cheapest.
Mm-hmm. And then Large Print has their own book vendor, several, Centerpoint, Thorndike, yes. So those are our major vendors that we order from. So if your book's not available at any of those vendors, we're really kind of only left with Amazon, because we have a business account with them, and we have to go through tax exemption, that whole process and everything. So generally, if it's not available on Amazon, we can't get it. So those are where we get the books from. Okay.
So once we got the books,
Next we move on to processing.
Okay, technical services.
And this is where Barbara shines.
Barbara takes center stage.
Well, thank you.
So, do you want to talk a little bit about invoicing? Because I don't really have any direct experience with that.
Absolutely, I'll talk about it. The first thing I do is check for deliveries. And I am so happy. It's like Christmas morning to open a new box of books, and just see all the beautiful books that our librarians have selected. And it makes me really, really happy every day. So that's a really great thing.
Because we are getting books constantly throughout the week.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm glad you're excited when you get shipments because I think Sean, he processes the children's books, right? And I look, he has like a look of dread when a shipment comes in.
I think it means something very different when you get a box of children's books just because of the size of the books. Like for you, you're getting a box, you're like, oh, a nice 20 books for me to sit and look through and work on. And Sean has a box of 300 books.
It also must be like a dream for like, because it's like a curated list of like the newest releases. So you can probably, I bet your to be read list is very long just from all the ideas you get
It's
processing
endless.
all the books.
Yeah, I can't keep up, but it's wonderful just to see. I'm drawn to nonfiction myself, so I am just thrilled.
Yeah.
Just to read snippets and then move on with it. So I love that.
So the shipment comes in, you open it up, it's Christmas morning, you have all the books.
Yes.
What's next? What do we do for invoicing?
Okay, the first thing I do is I'll shelve the books on my cart, and I will read the invoice and determine the first thing I like to do is determine the date that it's allowed to go out to the public and get that settled first, because I don't want to release anything before it's time. Once I do that, I take the invoice and the book and I put in some information into the computer about the book and when we receive it, and just make sure all the, monetary things are in order for the price of the book. And then I start to work on making an item record in the computer that when our patrons come in and they look up a title, they will see certain things such as a call number, Dewey Decimal System, and a price of the book, and just various codes that tell if it's fiction, nonfiction, and new or not a especially new book. It could be a replacement book that comes in as well. So I take care of all that, and then I send my invoices through email to our accounting department, get that all settled. So that would be the first steps.
And a lot of the information she's putting in the item record helps us keep track of statistics of how the books circulate, and also determines how the books circulate, who they can go out to, how long they'll go out. That's all determined by the information she puts in.
Yes, exactly.
Like a new book can't be checked out by somebody outside of our library. And if you do check it out, it will only go to you for 14 days. That's all determined by things that she puts into the item record.
Right. So those are all kind of like the behind the scenes stats that the librarians use. But in terms of the records that patrons would see, the subject heading is really the most important one, I would say, right? And is that...
That's me.
That's Tory. Okay. So Tory, subject headings. Do you want to describe what those are for our listeners?
So after Barbara is done doing that first step with the book, I get them to do general things that are under the umbrella of cataloging, including the subject headings. So subject headings are, if you ever search something in our catalog and they suggest those topics that you can click on, those are subject headings. And they help you categorize the books in a way that are findable, accessible. So usually in libraries, we use authorized headings that are determined by the Library of Congress, so that across all libraries, there's consistent wording that's used, consistent formatting, so that it is shareable. So we can, share with not just our county, but Nassau County, where if somebody from another place wanted to look at our records, they would understand them. So we use standardized subject headings to categorize the books in a findable way.
Right. And then call numbers is what I was actually thinking of. I misspoke. So call numbers is more the patron-facing thing. That's how you can find something on the actual shelf.
Call numbers are physical, I would say, and subject headings are digital.
Yes.
findability. Call numbers, we do use the Dewey Decimal System, which most people have heard of, even though Melville Dewey was not a nice man, but he made great numbers.
It's another episode.
Mm-hmm.
he made great numbers.
He made great numbers.
And had some interesting opinions about things.
So, like we mentioned earlier in the episode when we were talking about our different sections that we're in charge of, those numbers are used to place the books in an order that is findable. So the 900s are the history and geography. And then within that, there's really granular numbers down to decimal points that tell what the book is about. Like if a call number ends in 0.04, it's probably a travel book. If the call number ends in 0.09, it's probably a biography or a history book. So the call numbers are used to put everything that is alike with each other so that you can find it.
Yes. It's a wild system. It trying to condense the entire world knowledge into a numerical order.
Sometimes it's nebulous. Sometimes it's difficult.
Sometimes it's nebulous because, it was invented before computers were a thing, for instance.
It is updated regularly.
It is. And I was going to mention that how we determine what Dewey number is assigned to a book's, we have the Dewey Decimal categorization books. It's a 4-volume series. Each volume is about 1,000 pages at least. And it has, from 0.000 to 999 all the way up. And you can kind of flip through by subject matter, and it'll give you extremely granular detail on what is assigned to what category or subject matter. So I consult those books pretty frequently for DVDs because it's harder to find Dewey numbers for DVDs than books, which seem to be more prevalent, or at least Baker and Taylor, our vendor, will sometimes provide you with those Dewey numbers, which
are sometimes very wrong.
Sometimes they're wrong. You try to double check them as best you can, or if you realize if it doesn't seem right. But our DVD media vendor does not do that, so we have to assign those ourselves. So that's usually when I'm consulting those books, but they are very, very helpful, and you can find them online too. But I find it easier to flip through the book. In any case, so call numbers, if it's nonfiction, we assign it a Dewey number because that makes sense for organizational purposes. But fiction is by the author's name. Biography is by the subject matter of the biography. And then we have separate call numbers for genre fiction, like romance and mystery and science fiction fantasy, and then graphic novels have their own call number system as well.
Which this is one place where it can really differ between libraries. A library I worked at before, all of their graphic novels were in nonfiction, under 7.41.5973. So you can do that, or you could have it in its own section. Having a romance section, not all libraries have that. I like that we have a lot of pulled out genres, because sometimes you just want to browse the thing that you want to look at.
And I don't like that.
Oh.
And this is... But like another example is at Connecticut Library that I used to work at, they pull out all their travel guides. So the travel guides aren't in the 900s, they're in their own section. Same thing with cookbooks. Cookbooks are usually in the 600s. 641, but they have their own section at Connecticut.
Interesting.
That I like, because the cookbooks, because it goes from like aircraft's maintenance to like painting, and like in between is cooking, is sandwiched in between, because it's like a home economics, I guess they kind of fit it in as the category, which is like, it makes sense logically when you're looking at like the Dewey system. You're like, okay, that's where I would place it. But if you're browsing the shelves, it's kind of awkward and clumsy, and sometimes people are just looking for cookbooks specifically, so might get lost in like car maintenance books and then not realize, like, if they turned around, that's where the cookbooks are. So I think cookbooks might be a good section to pull out, but
and I disagree with that.
Yeah,
Isn't
well,
that
there
funny
you
how
go.
that works?
It's funny. So there's no perfect system, but this is how we do it at Sayville, and it also has to do with like the physical space in your library too, like how you can physically arrange the space. But there's a whole art form to this, and that's why collections in Barnes & Noble look different than a library, and there's a whole philosophy behind it. But maybe we can save that for another episode too. All right, any other notes on call numbers? Kind of got sidetracked there a little bit.
But once I finish the call numbers, the books go back to Barbara.
Thank God. Barbara, please talk.
Yes. Okay. So I get the books and all the information I need to complete the item record for each book is with me now. So I finish that up and I put in the call number and the barcode, which is a scannable code that we use for each individual item. And I get that all set up. And then I take the book and I will process it physically as it needs to get processed.
What are some of the things that you do to make sure the book is ready to be on the shelf physically?
Physically, I will cover the book with a dust cover if it needs it. I will stamp the book with certain genre labels, such as romance or science fiction, fantasy fiction, a new label if it's a new book, and stamp the book with the date that it's been processed, and just have it looking beautiful before it goes to our patrons. I take great pride in that process. Sometimes one of my favorite things is I'll get a very sad book that needs a lot of repair. And when I can make that happy again, I'm really happy too. We have a beautiful, I would say, our book press. It's historically old. I don't know how old it is. It might be 100 years old. And when we get to use it, it's just a wonderful process.
Yeah, it looks like something you'd see in like a historic representation of like a cider mill or something that they used to like crush the apples or something. It's this huge vise.
Oh, it's just a wonderful apparatus. And it's on our counter, for any book that needs, the pages come out or there's been times
they start to warp or something.
They do warp, and we have tools that really repair the books well. And I'm so blessed to have learned that process. I love it.
Yeah. Is there anything, Tori, you want to add to the repair process that you're thinking?
That Barbara really is a whiz at book repair. We have had some really unique book issues coming in recently that she's always willing to take a stab at repairing, because since we are trying our best to be a sustainable library, we like to try to repair a book before we toss it and replace it and get the most money life that we can out of the book.
Right.
So Barbara, do you remember that book that had the ripped part of the page was missing recently?
Yes,
that you
I
fixed?
do. Mm-hmm.
Would you tell us about that?
Okay, that was interesting. We had a book that the page was torn. I think it was 2 pages. So no way to repair it. However, I ordered a book from another library and copied the 2 pages that were damaged on our book. And I just did my work, and I was able to insert the new pages of the book into our old book, cut out our damaged pages. And it came out really well this time. And it's just a good feeling to save a book.
Yeah, save it from a landfill. Yeah,
yes,
that's a great idea.
Completely.
Almost anything can be fixed. Ripped pages, broken spine, shoe marks, not really. So don't let your dogs and your kids chew in the books.
That was my next question, is what can't be salvaged? Mold, probably.
Mold, bed bugs.
Water damage,
which is probably the most common type of damage. So water damage is unfortunate. Although I will be pretty lenient about putting water damage back on the shelf if the book is still readable. Like if the pages are not crinkled in on themselves too much. If you dumped your coffee cup on the book, it's going in the trash. But water damage is not always the end of a book. But the chew marks are really, I think, some of the worst. What do you think?
Yes, definitely. Or, scribbling in books, things like that. Or highlighting.
Writing in a test book.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that is a little taste of the repair process. I wish if we had a YouTube channel or something, it might be interesting to
that would be cool.
Kind of do like a behind the scenes book repair. That's a cool idea.
One other thing that goes into the books that I want to mention before we move on is RFID tags in addition to the barcodes, which is, again, not all libraries use. Very unique. Some do and some don't. So people know you can scan a barcode to check a book in or out. We have RFID tags placed into our books like what you would find in a store, and we can use that to check the book in and out. So the information about what the book is and how it can circulate is encoded onto this tag that gets read by a pad, and the computer interprets it, and we check the book out. So that we, I don't actually know if it's better than a barcode. Some people don't think it is. It can be more convenient if you have a lot of books to check in or out, though.
Yeah, the only thing it's not, I guess, Well, I don't know.
It helps
I
with
like
security
it.
as well, because we
Yes.
have gates that go off if you don't desensitize the tag.
Yes. That's how we catch all of our criminals here at the
And
library.
we do go to library jail.
Mm-hmm. That's what the basement is. Maybe we can do a tour of our basement.
Of our library jail.
Jail one day. That's another good idea. All right. So I have I don't know if I shared this note with you, Tori, but I think, a bulk of the lifespan of a library book is sitting on our shelf. So I guess we can kind of just quickly touch on that. It's not very exciting. You're sitting on the shelf waiting to be discovered. But every time you check out a book, it counts it towards the statistics that we talked about earlier. So the statistics are what we use to determine whether or not a book is relevant anymore to keep in the collection. So whenever something is checked out, it counts towards the total number of checkouts, and it also records the last date it was checked out, which is...
It's sort of like a Hunger Game of books.
Yes, that's a good way to think
and
about it.
whoever gets checked out the most wins.
Yes,
and
that's right.
Whoever doesn't, if you've read the Hunger Games, you know.
I wonder what's winning in the library right now.
James Patterson.
Yeah, probably. Good job, James. You are... I've never read or seen the Hunger Games. What does the leader get? Not killed?
They get to live, yeah.
Oh, they get to live.
They do. They get like a
Always
bunch
that.
of money and like a house and stuff too. And he does have that, I bet.
Yeah. James Patterson, the immortal James Patterson.
The new immortal bard.
Oh, God. So a book can be checked out here in the library, obviously. But the interlibrary loan system, which we could do an entire episode on, and maybe we will in the near future. So somebody from another library in Suffolk County or Nassau County or elsewhere can also check out a book. And then in that case, one of our pages would grab the book and process it through Patron Services, and out it would go. Still counting towards our statistics, most importantly.
One sidebar that I also didn't think to add to our process, as you mentioned, they spend a lot of time sitting on the shelves. So we spend a lot of time trying to get them off the shelves, which nowadays can include, like, we'll post about them on social media. We have our What Are You Reading Wednesdays posts that we do, but also book displays to try to pull out books that people might not check out regularly, to get eyes on them so that they go out more, because out of sight, out of mind. So recently I did a display of travel books for places you could go in New York, so that people coming here during the summer could go on like a trip to the Hamptons or upstate. And that made those books circulate better than they usually do. So a display can really get the books out of the library.
I think Peter and I actually went to like a seminar on the philosophy of like designing a shelf, like with turnouts, like books that are facing out so the patrons can see the cover, and like, what's the right ratio of books you want the spine facing versus out and everything. It was very interesting. And we started doing it with our news section right after we watched that, and immediately books were flying off the shelf. It's very interesting to see, the visual display, the visual organization, of like keeping things in columns and having like one column of face outs and then spines and everything, how much it can just bring attention, bring eyeballs to...
Attention must be paid.
Attention must be paid. Checkouts must occur.
We just similarly did this down in Patron Services on our book sale shelf. We have now a Hidden Gems feature, which the hidden gems are very subjective. It's just us picking them, but a lot of times people wouldn't notice those things otherwise, so now they're getting picked up a lot more quickly. Our Leonardo DiCaprio picture books are getting purchased by someone who will love them more than they would have.
Yes, I'm not sure if there's anything really else to say about the majority of the life of a book. Hopefully it's being checked out and not just sitting there collecting dust. But yeah, I just wanted to quickly touch on that. I don't know, Barbara, do you have any thoughts about...
I just want to say, when we do realize that we will not circulate certain books, we try our best to donate them to different places.
Yeah.
Better World Books is one of the places, and that's a good process as well.
Yeah, so let's get into that. Let's get into like the end of life of a library book, the end stages.
Book, period.
So one thing that every librarian is well versed in, something that we do quite often, at least once a year, is we weed our collections. So what that means is we usually run statistics on whatever sections we are responsible for, and we check all the stats of all of those books and see what's going out, what's not, and we use that as part of our determination of what needs to go. Unfortunately, we are in a building that has limited space and limited shelf space. So when all these new books are coming in, we have to make room for them somewhere. So that means the older stuff, usually the older stuff, needs to go, or the stuff that's less relevant, more importantly. So that is where weeding comes in. So it is very important. It's not everyone's favorite duty. I kind of like it, actually. But
Alex hates books.
I hate books. Get them out of here. I want to
empty shelves.
I just want to look at just empty shelves.
As far as
I want
the eye can see.
Come in and just be in a depressing empty warehouse every day. So yeah, the weeding process is, I think everyone has their own sort of criteria, but the most important thing is circulation stats. I think everybody shares that as
recency and frequency.
Yes. So I mentioned earlier total checkouts and last checkout date. Those are the two most important stats I think you should look at when considering whether or not a book needs to go.
I'll pose a third.
Well, damage, I think, would be another.
Well, that's not a stat. The third stat, we are able to see how many times the book went out this year as well as how many times the book went out last year. So sometimes, there can be a run on a book, and last year it went out 8 times, but this year it has not gone out at all. So it's good to see if the book is consistently checked out as well.
Yeah, if it was a fad that has passed or not. Yeah, that's good. So yeah, weeding is really important. Again, like circulation stats, I would say is number one. Obviously, damage that's just got to go.
Damage is not negotiable.
No. So when I was training to be a librarian, the first library I started at when I was a part-timer had me weed their entire collection, which is a colossal undertaking, especially for somebody who had literally no job experience, which I didn't realize at the time. They were giving me this huge task that was probably out of my expertise. But I remembered when I was in school, they taught me the musty technique.
I'm so mad that I never got to learn about musty. Please tell me about musty.
So the musty is an acronym that stands for, it's MUSTIE, musty. M for misleading. That's items that are outdated or inaccurate with misleading information, etc. U is for ugly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of subjective, but it really just
Get that
means
ugly book out
poor
of there.
physical condition beyond repair. S is for superseded, stuff that's been superseded by newer information or updated resources. So like we don't need the 2017 travel book if we have the 2020 and the 2024. T is for trivial, items that are lacking significant literary or scientific merit or that are inappropriate for the intended audience. I is for irrelevant, materials not used by patrons or not aligned with the library's collection development policy. And E is elsewhere. Items are readily available from other sources, such as online databases or other libraries. E is a big one for the reference collection. A lot of people love the reference collection, especially librarians used to love the reference collection. And unfortunately, as the internet has taken over the world, a lot of that information is just on Wikipedia or found in other databases online. So the reference collection is becoming less and less relevant.
I gotta say, I think they did a lot of work to
fit the acronym.
That was a lot of, we want it to be a fun word because ugly, I don't know.
We only want pretty books.
And some of those.
How about unsightly?
Unsightly.
Would that work?
I don't in some of those letters you could combine together.
Yeah, it's redundant pretty much.
Unsightly, that's good.
The important takeaways, and I wasn't like following, is this an S or a T when I was reading something.
Is this musty?
It's really just important. Like it's a nice reminder of
things you should think about.
Things you should consider, right? Is it outdated? Is it misleading? Is this things like that? Is it just not relevant to our collection? But a lot of those things will come up just by looking at circulation stats. So I wanted to point that out. That's what I used as like my guiding light when I was just getting started. And now
he'll throw out any book.
Now I'll just throw out any book that just looks at me the wrong way.
Because it's ugly.
Yep.
So once we decide to get rid of a book, there, as Barbara mentioned, there's a few places it could go because we don't throw them straight in the trash right away. I feel like this is the most upsetting part of the episode to listeners because people really feel strongly about disposing of books.
Or making everyone aware of the mortality of
Yes.
Everything.
Everything, including a book. As she mentioned, we will try to resell them if we can to a third party like a Better World Books or Baker and Taylor used to have a program called Sustainable Shelves where they would take the books and recycle them. I don't know that they do that. They were getting very picky about what books they would take.
But yeah, Better World and Baker and Taylor Sustainable Shelves, that's usually our first place we'll go to when we have our collection because they will either recycle them or find other homes for them. I think they work in conjunction with maybe some nonprofits or things like that distribute the books. In any case, they will give us a small pittance for the books. So we're making some of that money back, which again, we're trying to be the best stewards possible. We also have the sale shelf down in the lobby. You can probably talk more about that, Tori.
Yeah, we will take anything that we think there could be interest in that somebody might like to have at home, stuff that's in very nice condition. We'll put it on the sale shelf. Also a lot of media. Yeah. So like when we read our DVDs, we just did a big DVD sale over the summer, 5 for $1 to try to get some of those out of here. Because somebody doesn't want to borrow it doesn't mean they don't want to own it. And sell them for a pittance. Like we really want it to be accessible to people to get the books that they like. And also sometimes we will do VA pickups where the VA will pick up materials to sell and raise money for veterans' homes. So some of our materials will go to that.
Exactly. And then if failing all of those options, unfortunately, they're
going to that big bookshelf in the sky.
I think we've covered it. I think that's... Do we have any other notes or anything we want to add? I mean, that's a pretty good snapshot, I think, of the life cycle of a book. Dun, 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 dun. We need like a little sting to end the episode. All right. Well, I think we've covered it. I hope patrons, you have a better idea of what goes into ordering, why we do what we do, and
why it takes so long to get to you.
Yes.
Because Barbara and I need some time to work on these things.
Yeah, we have a huge collection and a few people that are actually working on processing everything. So, yeah. But I had a book on hold and it came out the day it was released.
Oh,
so
terrific.
I would say we are very good at getting things out.
I told you she's the queen of technical services.
Barbara, thank you so much for joining us
on
the podcast. We'll have you back again soon to talk maybe the Beatles.
Oh, perhaps.
Maybe a little sneak peek at a future episode. I don't know. Tori, it's a pleasure as always.
I'll be back. That's a threat.
I'll be back. And listeners, we'll check you next time.
Between the shelves.